Okay, just now we look at a sample strategy under the scenario there's no ability to pay requirement. Next, let's look at with ability to pay requirement, such as in the USA. What the strategy looks like. So in the US, before there was no ability to pay requirement prior to the 2008 financial crisis. Since the financial crisis, the regulator realized that the lenders need some guidance in order to be responsible, right? So be prudent in terms of the loans extended to consumers, because some consumers, they do not have the capability, right, to control their financing purchase behavior. So the responsibility falls more on the lender side. That's why there is a Card Act introduced. The Card Act stipulates that lenders this is for credit cards issuers, but many lenders adopt the same principle as well, because it's really a good, prudent principle. Okay, so for the card issuer, you need to adopt one of the following ways to assess a consumer's ability to repay the debt. So there are three options: debt to income ratio, debt to asset ratio, and residual income. Okay, so let's look at these three options one by one. First, debt to income ratio. This is the most commonly used method to evaluate a consumer's ability to pay. The formula is very easy. So it's the new monthly debt after the loan is extended divided by the monthly income. Okay, so let's break it down, look at it further. The monthly income is simply what the consumer reports on the credit application. If it's annual income, you divide it by 12. Okay, so the new monthly debt, this is a little bit complicated. There are a few sub components. First, we have the monthly non-mortgage debt payment. So maybe you have existing loans or credit cards elsewhere. So the lender can get that information from the credit bureau. Okay, so then the next item is the monthly housing expense. This is a large item. So the consumer could be a renter or an owner of a home. If it's a renter, there's a monthly rent, right? So if a homeowner, unless the mortgage is paid off, there's still a monthly mortgage payment, right? So on the credit application, the consumer is asked to put down the monthly housing expense as well as the housing status, right? Renter or homeowner. Also for mortgage, the information, the monthly payment information is also available from credit bureau. So a lender actually can do a cross check, right? So if it's a homeowner, look at the housing expense reported on the credit application versus the mortgage payment from the credit bureau. To be conservative, the lender can take the larger of the two. Okay, so that's the monthly housing expense. The last item is the new credit monthly payment. So if it's a loan, there's a monthly amortization table, so you know exactly how much the consumer needs to pay every month, right? That's the new credit monthly payment. For credit card, you have to estimate, because every month the consumer probably will purchase different amounts. One thing is that we need to assume that 100% of the credit line will be fully utilized. Okay, so if the line is $10,000, so let's suppose the overall debt is $10,000 from day one. Then we need to calculate what's the minimum payment each month. We have an annual APR, right? So whether it's 18%, 20%, we use that divided by 12, right? That's the monthly interest rate. And also we add 1% there to make sure the consumer is able to bring the balance down from month to month. So what the lender does not want to do is that let the balance stays there, and in some cases even increasing over time, even though the customer makes a small payment. So that's called the negative amortization. We do not want that to happen. We want consumers to be able to pay down the balance gradually. So that 1% make sure that there's a principal being paid each month. So that's the estimate of the monthly payment from the new credit card debt, right, or new personal loans. So you add these three items together: non-mortgage debt, housing expense, and the new credits payment. You get the new monthly debt. So new monthly debt over the monthly income, you get a ratio, right? That ratio cannot be too large, right? Because your debt is too big, then you don't have anything else left, right, for a regular basic expense like a food, right? So that's not good. So that's the formula of a debt to income ratio. How do we use the debt to income ratio? Usually there's a strategy. There are many ways to design strategy. Here we have a simple example. In the table, you can see that on the left-hand side, you have the annual income from the consumer. On the top, you have the credit bureau score. So you have a table here. For each cell, we have a maximum DTI ratio. So that means the new credit cannot make the DTI ratio beyond the maximum cap in each cell. Okay, so you can see that the largest DTI here is 80% at the bottom left. That's really for high income, 100,000 per year and above, and really good credit. Credit bureau score 720 above. Okay, so for those, you can carry that up to 80% of your income. As your income decreases, your DTI ratio also decreases. That's because for the same DTI ratio, so your residual income will be less, right? For example, if we have a $100,000 annual income, 80% debt, you still have 20%, which is $20,000 left, right? So as your regular expense. If you only have $40,000, if we apply the same 80%, so you only have 20% of your income left, which is only $8,000 a year. So right, that's not much. So that's the reason for lower income, you cannot apply the same DTI ratio. It has to be lower, right? So another dimension is the credit, right? If you have good credit, you manage your credit well, this ratio can be higher. Here in this example is 70%. If you haven't demonstrated good credit behavior, that DTI ratio cap is as low as 45% here. Okay, this is just a sample to illustrate how you can use the DTI in combination from some other key consumer attributes. Okay. Then let's look at an example to see how this DTI strategy is applied in action. We have an application with annual income of $60,000. Application score is pretty good, 910. Credit bureau score very solid, 730. So how we assess this application is that remember we have a dual score matrix in the decision strategy. It's the same strategy as we saw a couple of slides ago. Let's first look at whether it will be approved or declined. Okay, so application score above 900, so that's the right hand side column, and the credit bureau score above 720, right? So 730 score, so that's the bottom row. So cross is here. Okay, so it's in the approval zone, right? So good scores, and also we have an initial limit assignment of $12,000. Okay, so this is from the decision strategy and limit strategy. However, we still have to go through the ability to pay assessment, right? So then we look at the table on the right. This is a table we just looked at in the previous slide. Okay, the customer's income is 60,000, so it's the third row. Credit behavior score is above 720. That's the last column, right? So here, okay, so the maximum DTI for this application or this consumer is 80%. So next, we need to evaluate whether this $12,000 initial limit would make the consumer's new debt to income ratio still within 80%. We need to look at that. If not, we have to lower the $12,000. Okay, so we need to do a few calculations here. In reality, there's a system, right? There's an algorithm on the system that calculates it automatically. Here, for illustration, let's use a table. So I would actually encourage you to build the same table, calculate one or two examples, then you can fully understand the mechanics of this calculation, right? So we have a few columns here. First one is approved limit. We have $12,000 from bottom. So how it works is that we try $12,000 to see the debt income ratio, whether it's within 80%. If not, we have to lower it by $1,000, for example. You can also lower by every 500, but here let's use 1,000. Okay. Then until you have a limit within the DTI cap. Okay, so that's why you have so many rows here. But let's start with the bottom row, right? $12,000. APR, let's use 18%, pretty standard, divided by 12, that's 1.5% plus 1%, that's 2.5%. Right, so monthly payment, $12,000 full limit utilized times 2.5%. You get $300 payment per month. Suppose existing monthly debt is $3,750. You add 300 on top of existing debt, you got the new debt, right? So that's $4,050 every month. The consumer has an annual income of $60,000. That translates into $5,000 per month. So the new debt to income ratio is simply the new monthly debt, $4,050 divided by 5,000 monthly income. So that's 81%. It's over the 80% cap. So no, we cannot assign $12,000. So then let's lower the assign limit by 1,000 to 11,000, right? So we repeat the process. So the only thing changed here is the monthly payment that will be lowered by $25 to $275, right? Plus existing debt. The new monthly debt is $4,025. Income no change, right? You calculate the new debt to income ratio. That's 80.5%. That's still above 80%. So we need to reduce another 1,000. So limit to $10,000. So now new debt is 4,000. Then the new debt to income ratio is exactly $80,000. Okay, great. So this customer then qualifies for $10,000 limit under the debt to income ratio strategy. Okay, so this example illustrates how this debt to income strategy is applied in combination with decision strategy and the limit strategy.